Hello everybody, this is part 11 of reading the entire Catholic Bible. We are on chapter 31. Looks like we're starting off with a chapter that has a title this time. That is great. Most of them did, but here we have Flight from Laban. Let's go ahead and begin. Jacob heard that Laban's sons were saying, "Jacob has taken everything that belonged to our father, and he has produced all this wealth from our father's property." Jacob perceived, too, that Laban's attitude toward him was not what it had previously been. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your ancestors where you were born, and I will be with you." So Jacob sent for Rachel to Leah to meet him in the field where his flock was. There he said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me is not as it was in the past, but the God of my father has been with me. You know well that with all my strength I served your father, yet your father cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. God, however, did not let him do me any harm. Whenever your father said, 'The speckled animals will be your wages,' the entire flock would bear speckled young. Whenever he said, 'The streaked animals will be your wages,' the entire flock would bear streaked young. So God took away your father's livestock and gave it to me. Once, during the flock's mating season, I had a dream in which I saw he-goats mating that were streaked, speckled, and mottled. M-O-T-T-L-E-D. In the dream, God's angel said to me, 'Jacob,' and I replied, 'Here I am.' Then he said, 'Look up and see. All the he-goats that are mating are streaked, speckled, and mottled. For I have seen all the things that Laban has been doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a sacred pillar and made a vow to me. Get up now, leave this land, and return to the land of your birth.' Rachel and Leah answered him, 'Do we still have an heir's portion in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as outsiders? He not only sold us, he has even used up the money that he got for us. All the wealth that God took away from our father really belongs to us and our children. So do whatever God has told you.' Jacob proceeded to put his children and wives on camels, and he drove off all his livestock and all the property he had acquired in Padan Aram to go to his father Isaac in the land of Canaan. Now Laban was away shearing his sheep, and Rachel had stolen her father's household images. Jacob had hoodwinked Laban the Aramean, by not telling him that he was going to flee. Thus he fled with all that he had. Once he was across the Euphrates, he headed for the hill country of Gilead. On the third day, the word came to Laban that Jacob had fled. Taking his kinsmen with him, he pursued him for 7 days until he caught up with him in the hill country of Gilead. But that night God appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and said to him, 'Take care not to say anything to Jacob.' Jacob and Laban in Gilead. When Laban overtook Jacob, Jacob's tents were pitched in the hill country. Laban also pitched his tents in the hill country of Gilead. Laban said to Jacob, How could you hoodwink me and carry off my daughters like prisoners of war? Why did you dupe me by stealing away secretly? You did not tell me. I would have sent you off with joyful singing to the sound of tambourines, Tambourines, and harps, tambourines and harps. You did not even allow me a parting kiss to my daughters and grandchildren. Now what you have done makes no sense. I have it in my power to harm all of you. But last night the God of your father said to me, "Take care not to say anything to Jacob." Granted that you had to leave because you were longing for your father's house, why did you steal my gods? Jacob replied to Laban, "I was frightened at the thought that you might take your daughters away from me by force. As for your gods, the one you find them with shall not remain alive, if, with our kinsmen looking on, you identify anything here as belonging to you, take it." Jacob had no idea that Rachel had stolen the household images. Laban then went in and searched Jacob's tent and Leah's tent, as well as the tents of the 2 maidservants, But he did not find them. Leaving Leah's tent, he went into Rachel's. Meanwhile, Rachel had taken the household images, put them inside the camel's saddlebag, and seated herself upon them. When Laban had rummaged through her whole tent without finding them, she said to her father, "Do not let my lord be angry that I cannot rise in your presence. I am having my period." So despite his search, he did not find the household images. Jacob, now angered, confronted with Laban and demanded, "What crime or offense have I committed that you should hound me? Now that you have rummaged through all my things, what have you found from your household belongings? Produce it here before your kinsmen and mine, and let them decide between the two of us. In the 20 years that I was under you, no ewe or she-goat of yours ever miscarried, and I have never eaten rams of your flock. I never brought you an animal torn by wild beasts. I made good the loss myself. You held me responsible for anything stolen by day or night. Often the scorching heat devoured me by day, and the frost by night, while sleep fled from my eyes. Of the 20 years that I have now spent in your household, I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flock, while you changed my wages 10 times. If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac had not been on my side, you would now have sent me away empty-handed. But God saw my plight and the fruits of my toil, and last night he reproached you." Laban replied to Jacob, "The daughters are mine, their children are mine, the flocks are mine. What can I do now for my own daughters and for the children they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and it will be like a treaty between you and me." Then Jacob took a stone and set it up as a sacred pillar. Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones." So they got stones and made a mound, and they ate there at the mound. Laban called it a Jigar-Sahadutha. That is a long word. That one's going on the screen. But Jacob called it a Galid. Laban said, "This mound will be a witness from now on between you and me." That is why it is named Galid, and also Mizpah. For he said, "May the Lord keep watch between you and me when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreated my daughters or take other wives besides my daughters, know that even though no one else is there, God will be a witness between you and me." Laban said further to Jacob, "Here is this mound, and here is the sacred pillar that I have set up between you and me." Laban said further to Jacob, "Here is this mound, and here is the sacred pillar that I have set up between you and me. This mound will be a witness, and the sacred pillar will be a witness, that with hostile intent I may not pass beyond this mound into your territory, nor may you pass beyond it into mine. May the God of Abraham and the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us." Jacob said to the oath by the fear of his father Isaac. He then offered a sacrifice on the mountain and invited his kinsmen to share in the meal. When they had eaten, they passed the night on the mountain. Chapter 32. Early the next morning, Laban kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he set out on his journey back home. Meanwhile, Jacob continued on his own way, and God's angels encountered him. When Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's encampment." So he named that place Mahanaim. Envoys to Esau. Jacob sent messengers ahead to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, the country of Edom, ordering them, "Thus you shall say to my lord Esau, thus says your servant Jacob, I have been residing with Laban and have been delayed until now. I own oxen, donkeys, and sheep, I have sent my lord this message in the hope of gaining your favor." When the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, "We found your brother Esau. He is now coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him." Jacob was very much frightened. In his anxiety, he divided the people who were with him, as well as his flocks, herds, and camels, into 2 camps. If Esau should come and attack one camp, he reasoned, the remaining camp may still escape. Then Jacob prayed, "God of my father Abraham and God of my father Isaac, you, Lord, who said to me, 'Go back to your land and your relatives, and I will be good to you.' I am unworthy of all the acts of kindness and faithfulness that you have performed for your servant. Although I crossed the Jordan here with nothing but my staff, I have now grown into 2 camps. Save me from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau. Otherwise I fear that he will come and strike me down, and the mothers with the children. You yourself said, I will be very good to you, and I will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which are too numerous to count. After passing the night there, Jacob selected from what he had with him a present for his brother Esau, 200 she-goats and 20 he-goats, 200 ewes and 20 rams, 30 female camels and their young, 40 cows and 10 bulls, 20 female donkeys and 10 male donkeys. He put these animals in the care of his servants. In separate herds, he told the servants, go on ahead of me, but keep some space between the herds. He ordered the servant in the lead. When my brother Esau meets you and asks, to whom do you belong? Where are you going? To whom do these animals ahead of you belong? Tell him, to your servant Jacob, but they have been sent as a gift to my lord Esau. Jacob himself is right behind us. He also ordered the second servant and the third and all the others who followed behind the herds. Thus and so you shall say to Esau when you reach him, and also tell him, your servant Jacob is right behind us. If Jacob reasoned, if I first appease him with a gift that precedes, he will forgive me. For Jacob reasoned, if I first appease him with a gift that precedes me, then later, when I face him, perhaps he will forgive me. So the gifts went on ahead of him while he stayed that night in the camp. Jacob's new name. That night, however, Jacob arose, took his 2 wives with the 2 maidservants and his 11 children, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. After he got them and brought them across the Wadi, and brought over what belonged to him, Jacob was left there alone. Then a man wrestled with him until the break of dawn. When the man saw that he could not prevail over him, he struck Jacob's hip at its socket, so that Jacob's socket was dislocated as he wrestled with him. The man then said, let me go, for it is daybreak. But Jacob said, I will not let you go until you bless me. What is your name? The man asked. He answered, Jacob. Then the man said, you shall no longer be named Jacob, but Israel, because you have contended with divine and human beings and have prevailed. Jacob then asked him, please tell me your name. He answered, why do you ask for my name? With that he blessed him. Jacob named the place Peniel, Peniel, because I have seen God face to face, he said, yet my life has been spared. At sunrise, as he left Peniel, Jacob limped along because of his hip. That is why, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the sciatic muscle that is on the hip socket, because he had struck Jacob's hip socket at the sciatic muscle. That's where we're going to stop today. I'm pretty sure that was only 2 chapters, and I usually go for 3, but chapter 31 was so long that I don't want to push my storage too much, and for the sake of keeping all the videos around the same length, I think that's a good place to stop. So we'll pick up at chapter 33 next time. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Glasses off, and goodbye.